Hi, Elder Millennial Dan here. Now, when I was a kid in the 90s, I had a Game Gear for two reasons. One, I needed something I could see at night in the car, which was the main place that I used a portable video game system. And two, I needed something that had Sonic on it. Well, the Game Gear was my only option. And with that in mind, we're going to start this whole thing off with following the 5 mainline Sonic games for the Sega Game Gear. Now, of course, that starts with Sonic 1 for Game Gear. Now, this was an interesting one. It was actually the last Sonic game that I picked up for my Game Gear. I kind of really didn't like Sonic 2 that much. We'll get into that in the next episode. So I thought, well, if Sonic 2 is not great, then the first one probably wouldn't be that great either, right? So I eventually picked it up because, I wanted all of them. But I was kind of reluctant to give this one a try. And to my surprise, actually it was pretty decent. So why is it different than Sonic 2? What's unique about Sonic 1? And is this a game that you should play? Well, grab 6 AA batteries and let's dive in. As mentioned, Sonic the Hedgehog for Game Gear wasn't developed by the same legendary team behind the Genesis games. The Game Gear and Master System, Sega's previous home console effort that was still popular in some regions of the world, were both 8-bit systems. So another version of Sonic 1 was developed by a company called Ancient, helmed by Yuzo Koshiro, a famous composer. Because of the limitations of an 8-bit system, this isn't a port. Rather, this game was built from the ground up with some nods towards its bigger brother. For how early this was, developed at the same time as the Genesis version with an entirely different team, it's actually kind of surprising how much of the fundamental basics of, Sonic are here. You got Blue Hedgehog that goes fast, rings, robot villains, bonus stages, and then the Eggman. However, throughout the whole thing, the tone does seem a bit more childlike than the edgier tone of Sonic on the Genesis, and the music, some adapted from Sonic on Genesis, but mostly original, kind of reminds me more of Super Mario Land than anything else. This is the only Sonic on Game Gear developed by Ancient, so all the rest are going to be products of Aspect, and as you'll see in future episodes, it's going to get real weird. I'd be curious to see what Ancient would have done with sequels. As it is, Sonic 1, despite being the very first game of the series, is considered a high point on the Game Gear for many. I'd say the most impressive aspect of Sonic the Hedgehog Game Gear version is the gameplay, especially considering how early in the Game Gear's life cycle we're in 1991. The speed of Sonic was intentionally created to show off the blast processor in the 16-bit Genesis, so translating this same effect onto a sluggish 8-bit portable system is no small feat. But by and large, Sonic moves in a fairly satisfying and predictable way. The physics, while not as tight as the Genesis Sonic, still feel relatively precise, being kind of a bit floaty. Like on Sonic 1 for Genesis, there's no spin dash and it's missed here. There are also no special abilities beyond a shield that looks kind of weird. In this footage, the frame rate makes it look even weirder. Invincibility and the down arrow checkpoint that always appeared in Game Gear games, but only Game Gear games. Finally, if you get hit, you lose all your rings with no chance to get any back. In the boss levels, you get no rings at all, so one hit, you're dead. But thankfully in this game, they're relatively easy. I've seen complaints out there that the game is too easy and too short, but I don't know if I agree. When you're playing on a handheld device with no save function and limited batteries, it's a very different experience than the convenience of playing on a modern emulator or even on the Analog Pocket. Now, Sonic 2 for Game Gear is incredibly difficult, and I hated playing it as a result. While Sonic 1 was fun, and I can get pretty far into the game before whatever car ride I was on ended. In fact, I never even beat the game growing up, only getting as far as, the second to last zone on rare occasions. The short levels allowed me to see more of the game faster, which made it more fun. Oh, and there's also Chaos Emeralds apparently you can find in the levels, but they don't do anything other than add to your score at the end, so whatever. The levels are super linear, with only having a single path to the finish line. Later Sonic Game Gear games will embrace more exploration through multiple paths and secrets, but Sonic 1 keeps it kind of as basic as possible. Despite being relatively simple, this is one of the better Sonic sprites we get on the Game Gear, and definitely the best Game Gear version of Sonic's jump and roll sprite. The Sonic sprite's pretty small, but that gives you more real estate to actually see what's going on. The first 2 levels of Sonic 1 are very similar, with rather kind of dull pastel tones. The problem with this is that the Game Gear screen has a desaturation effect, which makes them appear washed out on original hardware. Later games and even later levels in the same game have much more saturated palettes, and because of that are much easier to see. The first 2 zones are so similar, in fact, that it's almost a shock when the jungle level appears and it feels like we're just suddenly an entirely different art style. Sonic's goofy grin in the bottom corner, along with some very kid-tastic tunes, kind of make this feel less cool. Like I said, like almost Super Mario Land vibe with this one. Consider this like this embarrassing 7th grade yearbook picture of Sonic before he started frowning and buying his clothes from Hot Topic. Alright, let's talk performance. So despite the lack of loops, you can absolutely book it through the levels in Sonic 1. You can actually kind of like glitch out and outrun the camera at some points. And for the most part, the simplified art style allows the 8-bit system to keep up. For the most part. There, unfortunately, is slowdown. It's not the worst it's ever going to get in the series, but it is pretty pronounced, and you definitely feel it. Particularly bad spots are underwater, and the shoddy water physics make everything even worse. And also busy sections like the waterfall, anytime you go over a bridge. You can definitely feel the game bumping up against the limits of the Game Gear, which, you know, not a great sign when you're at the very beginning of the system. What's interesting is that I distinctly remember this game feeling smoother and faster than other Sonic Game Gear games, and the reason for this is that the frame rate isn't capped the same way that it's capped on some of the other Sonic games, so it can go all the way up to the limits of the screen's refresh rate, making it feel fluid and fast when there isn't any slowdown. Alright, let's talk about the levels. So something curious about the Game Gear Sonic games, they actually tend to have more story elements than their Genesis counterparts. And that starts with this game, the very first one. In Sonic 1 for Genesis, you're just randomly thrown in different zones, while Sonic 1 for Game Gear, you actually get a map showing you your progress up this island up to Eggman's evil factory. Green Hill. So this is as bare bones as it gets in Sonic 1. The background has barely any detail, being basically a solid wash of blue with hints of water and mountains. Music is an 8-bit version of the timeless Green Hill Zone song from the Genesis, and which is one of the rare times that the systems share a music track. The boss is maybe the easiest boss in all of Sonic. I mean, I guess he does something eventually if you hang out and wait, but you're gonna kill him long before that happens. Something amusing to me is that this is almost the only time I've ever seen warning signs in a Sonic game, and for some reason that just throws me off so much. Like just before Pit, there are these cute little yellow signs, and it is one of the few times that the Game Gear designers have actually like considered the fact you can't see very far ahead of you, so I guess that's nice, but don't get used to it because it doesn't really show up in any later games. So I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about the bonus stages. So if you end a level with over 50 rings, you enter a wild bonus stage that's full of rings and has one hidden continue in it. These are actually pretty fun despite the kind of annoying music, and the art style is just wild compared to, you know, the kind of boring levels. If you hit the bumpers wrong, you're going to be flying all over the place, and these bonus stages are one place you can really just see how fast Sonic can go as the game spazzes out. If you're playing through on an actual Game Gear with no safety net, these stages are your savior, and make sure you grab those continues. Here's Bridge, which looks very similar to Green Hill except with some cool clouds in the background instead of solid blue. There's also a bunch of collapsing bridges that really slow the Game Gear processor down to a crawl. But wait, is that what I think it is? Is that an auto-scroller level in a Sonic game? Yes, maybe the only auto-scroller in a series that's all about going fast. Thankfully, it's fine, I guess. Mostly that it's over pretty quickly. Auto-scrollers are inherently weird. I mean, you're limited by the position of the screen, something that has no analog in real life. Like, if you're the character, you can see what's in front of you, but we can't because we're looking at it from the side. It's a weird thing. And next stage is Jungle, which, man, this is a change of pace. The dull pastels of the previous 2 levels are just completely replaced by a deeply saturated greens and yellows. And these levels are pretty short, and they're fine. There's nothing too remarkable about them. The waterfall does cause a lot of slowdown, which is frustrating, and the climb to the top is kind of reminiscent of Contra a little bit. Contra's got his own waterfall, but yeah, this Jungle. Next stage is Labyrinth. And wait, is that a new map? Yep, just like Castlevania, the map changes as you draw closer to your destination. Unfortunately, the name that pops up upon this change is Labyrinth, and we all know what that is. Of all the levels to pull from Sonic 1, of course they grab my least favorite one. Other than Green Hill, this is the only Sonic level that Sonic Game Gear shares with the Genesis. And even more than Green Hill, it actually looks very similar to the Genesis version. Now, when I reached this level as a kid, I typically turned the game off and moved on to something else because it just was not fun. Like, no, I don't know why every single Game Gear Sonic game has a water level. I don't know why they think that this is fun. The whole point of Sonic and platformers is to get into that flow where you're going fast and you're reacting and you're not being stopped. And the whole point of water is to slow you down. So it's just kind of anti everything that makes Sonic fun. But I don't know. Thankfully, it's not too long, but the combination of slowdown caused by the water effects plus the slowdown of the water physics themselves, compounded by an unforgiving drowning timer, just makes this level miserable. It looks okay, but it's not fun. Once you get through Labyrinth, we're in Scrap Brain, which, you know, this level actually kind of looks super cool. Like the red skyline in the opening of the level, like that looks rad. Otherwise, we're here in the signature late game factory level that is also mandated by whatever council decides Sonic levels. It's full of traps. There's pigs that throw balls at you, I guess. So that's there. And after the misery as Labyrinth, Scrap Brain is actually relatively easy and pretty fun. There's some basic puzzles, but they're nothing that interrupt the flow too much. And they're definitely nothing like the pipe puzzles that will drive me crazy in later Sonic games. Those fire jets really remind me of Contra again. But, you know, there are worse 8-bit games to imitate. And also the boss is just standing on a platform. I thought I died the first time I played through this boss, but it's not really a boss, I guess. So I thought Scrap Brain was the last level, but we gotta actually have another one called Skybase. So Skybase is basically a chase through the sky, which is, you know, another Sonic staple. There are large portions of the level I have to make it through with no rings at all, which feels a bit cheap, but, you know, it's the final level. It should be a little challenging. The boss is super easy, though, and everything resolves with you reappearing in Green Hill, give him a final bonk on the head, which, for some reason, this time is fatal. Then you're treated to a picture of Sonic during karaoke in the credits. Score is tallied up for some reason, and the game resets. It's old school, that's all you get. Job well done. You finished Sonic 1 for the Game Gear. So the big question after all of this, is Sonic 1 a game that you should seek out and play? Well, from a historic perspective, it's very interesting because this game came out and was developed at the same time as Sonic 1 for the Genesis, which is the very beginning of the whole series. There's nothing before that. So really, this is like where it starts. Sonic 1 nails the fundamentals, and you know what? What else can you ask for at the end of the day? Well, other than, you know, the billion other platforms that you can play instead of this old Sonic game or Sonic 1 for Genesis. Or, you know, don't think about it too hard. You know what? If you want to play it, play it. It's fun. You know, it's cute. And there's that little icon in the corner where Sonic's smiling. You don't get that from any other Sonic game. Unique to this one.